Hi folks, Rodney back again. Hey, I'm going to do a quick review on my 2022 YZ450F. For any of you that haven't already seen some of my videos, I had a 2019 YZ450FX. I ride mostly trails, but wanted to kind of get into riding some track more, and actually hit the track last week. I'm looking forward to doing it some more, but I'm back out on the trails today. So I'm going to flip the camera around here so you can kind of see the latest updates that I've done. And we're going to talk about some of them. So, as I mentioned, it's a 2022 YZ450F. Though one thing that kind of made me want to go back to the 450F instead of the FX model is I ride mostly trails, and a lot of the stuff that I ride is kind of more wide open. And I always kind of felt like on the FX model, I always kind of felt like I was in between gears. So to kind of break it down, on the FX model, you're going to get a wide ratio transmission. So first gear is lower than normal, second gear is lower than normal, third is even, fourth and fifth is actually higher than what it would be on the 450F model. And so, you know, in the higher gears, or I should say the higher gear ratio on the FX model makes it nice in between trails, because obviously it opens up and it's a little higher geared, and you can kind of run at lower RPMs but be able to get there quicker. The first gear is almost unusable, and when I say that, it's so low geared that, you know, if you're in a tight technical situation, it actually works out really well. But most of the riding that I do is not in that tight technical stuff. It's more flowing, as I mentioned. So because the second gear was lower and third gear was, you know, normal to what it would be on the 450F, it always felt like, you know, I was kind of in between gears, because second would wind out too quick, and then third, it seemed like it was such a jump to the third gear that it just seemed like it bogged down a little bit. So that was the biggest reason I wanted to go to the 450F, because it has a evenly spaced semi-close ratio transmission. All right, so that kind of covers that. Let's talk about the differences between the two. So with the 450F, you get a 1.6 gallon tank. On the YZ450FX, you get a 2.2 gallon tank. And so the overflow for the tank, which I actually really liked, but here's the tank here, the overflow for the FX model would come down here. So it, even when the gas tank was full, it never really felt like you were actually in a situation where it was top heavy. It didn't really affect the riding in any way. And I really enjoyed that. Now, I did have a Honda CRF 450 RX, and on the RX, the tank, the overflow was actually up here, so it actually really kind of felt top heavy when that tank was full, and never really cared for that. So some of the things I've done to the bike. This is actually a Monster Edition, so with the Monster Edition, it automatically comes with the black graphics. You know, it had some Monster logos on here. I wanted to kind of change up the look a little bit, and so this is SKDA graphics. Went, you know, kind of mostly black, and then got some blue highlights on it, and kind of goes with the wheels. So I enjoyed that. I put on the ASV unbreakable levers. I do that on all my bikes. It came with a gold chain, which I normally change out and go to that anyway. I did go with the Yoshimura RS12. Now, back in 2019, they didn't offer the RS12 for the YZ at that time, so I had an RS4 on the other one, and I actually like the RS12 better. What else have I done here? I did have the suspension revalved by M9 Suspension. Darren Mees over there, he's done suspension on, I think, 4 of my bikes now. And he always gets me set up to ride trails, and like I said, I can ride track too. One of the things that I will mention, you have a little heavier duty spring, or heavier weight spring, on the 450F versus the FX model. And we're still working on the valving a little bit with that. I'm going to try it out today. This is kind of the first time I've really had it out on the trail, now that everything's set up properly. And so we're going to see how that does today. What else? I guess that's some of the biggest majority. Oh, FCP motor mounts. So you got your uppers here, you got your lowers here. So this is a titanium mount here. This is a billet aluminum mount on the top. So the titanium mount is stiffer, and so what that does is gives you a little better front end traction. The upper, I'm not 100% sure on the 22 model if those are stronger or excuse me, stiffer or softer. But what it allows it to do is it allows it to go and lean over in the corners a little easier. Now, I did have these on my 2019 model, and it actually made a world of difference. And so looking forward to checking those out today because I just got those on. Other than that, that's really about all I've done. You know, like I said, it's going to be kind of the first time. I've actually had it out before on another type of trail, but I didn't have the suspension completely set up. And so this is going to be really kind of the first go around to really kind of test it out. Did have to put on this is a GYTR skid plate. The FX model comes with a skid plate on it. It was just kind of a flimsy piece of plastic, but it did work. But anyway, this is a GYTR model here. Couple things that I've noticed about the 22 model versus the 2019. So they changed the dimension of the head, and so now the cam is closer together. They reduced the height of the head itself, I think 10 millimeters, so give it a little lower center of gravity. What I have noticed is that it tends to spool up a lot quicker. So I kind of like that, you know, real quick response. The other thing that I've done too, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to back up. The FX model comes with a 9-ounce flyweight, or weighted flywheel rather. And so I have noticed that this one does flame out more so than what the FX did. I think on the FX, I don't know if I ever got it to flame out. So I was actually really impressed with that. It has amazing tractor-like ability. So when you get in the tight technical stuff, you know, just kind of going over like tree roots and, you know, rocks and stuff like that, it's almost impossible to get the FX model to stall. And like I said, I've already noticed several times that this has a lighter flywheel weight, and I don't know, it might be a 6 ounce. I don't know that for certain. So if somebody knows that answer, go ahead and throw it in the comments there. But I may eventually end up going to a weighted flywheel if I end up riding a lot more trail, because like I said, I have seen it stall a few times already. I did also go to a twin air power flow kit. And so one of the things that when you put the different exhaust on, obviously it allows it to breathe a little bit better, but you also need that air intake to help too. The little waffle type air filter that comes on them stock is horrible. It really restricts the air. It doesn't do a great job of keeping dirt and stuff out of the intake. So the twin air chamber, it's called a twin air power flow kit, you know, really made a huge difference. And I had that on a 2019 model as well. So ODI grips, I went with MIG 2. I like those. But other than that, everything else is pretty much stock. The bike's got plenty of power. I'm currently running the Magic Map. I've noticed that the mapping on the 2022 model, it seems like it's a little more on and off. And I'm gonna test that out a little bit. I made an adjustment on the throttle cable, seeing if that will help eliminate that. But anyway, the mapping, I was always running the Magic Map or the Travis Preston TP5 map on the other bike. And this one actually has a couple maps that are actually built into it to begin with. Actually really like. This one that I'm running is the hard pack linear map. And then, like I said, I run the Magic Map too. So I kind of flip in between those from time to time. But that linear map is actually very linear, as it mentions. But actually is a really good map to give you plenty of power all the way through the rev range. So I enjoy that. So anyway, I'll stop talking here, and I'm going to get out and ride here pretty quick. I'm going to check some tire pressure and get that set up, and then bleed the valves, or excuse me, bleed the forks. You guys make sure you do that before you go ride all the time. What you'll find is that if you don't, it will make it harsh. So anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned.